Hey guys, it's Maria with Meet Me at Zero. I just want to say thank you for anyone who's taken the time to listen, share, like, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. I just want to be a blessing to someone, enlighten someone, encourage someone today. And so, for anyone that's given me feedback, I appreciate you. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about um, parenting adult children. We parent till the day we die. It's a different kind of parenting. Um, and so when children are under a certain age and we have certain controls, some of us are helicopter parents. We want to breathe and we want them to walk at the beat of our drum. And so there's a pro and a con to everything. As for me, I can tell you that it took me forever, up to my 30s, to somewhat find my voice and to gauge what my limits were and somewhat my identity. And it hasn't been until in my 40s that I can tell you now with a certainty about some things, and some other things I'm still learning because of the delay in the way I was raised. And it's not an excuse, it's just life. It really is for everyone. Everybody has a completely different experience. But when I want to talk today about parenting adult children, um, it's it's a totally different monster. My heart, what I've learned is that my heart goes out to parents who are legit struggling, because for the most part, a lot of parents, some parents, not a lot, some parents, they have it down to a T, what their kids are going to eat, what college they're going to, where they're going to stay, what their major is going to be, who they're going to marry, they're going to live in this house, they're going to have this many kids. And so God's purpose is not for us. We play coach when we have our children when they're under a certain age. And after they become adults, we become a fan. We're sitting in the bleachers. And that's our place. That's our rightful place. We don't get to make decisions for them forever. We get them for the period of time that we do, to pour into them, to love on them, and all that good stuff. Now, when you are parenting adult kids, it's a different dynamic. And a lot of times for me, it was hard, because a lot of times you feel like you're a failure. Like, this is who I am. This is what I've taught you. This is what you're doing. But what I was failing to realize is that God has a plan for every single person. So my failures and my walk with God and my path is never supposed to be similar to anyone else within my control. Like, I don't get to control that my kids are going to make the same mistakes, that the mistakes that I've made, I'm going to be able to prevent them in them, or anything like that. We do try, and I still do. I try to give them opportunities. I help them as best as I can. I give them advice when they come for it. I always pray for them when they call me. I'm always there for them. But I don't think in the mindset that I'm like God to fix their problems, and I'm there to say, hey, see, I told you, let me fix it, and this is the way you should have done it the whole time. That's not God's plan for anyone. So we have free range, free will. And in the measure in which you hurt, in the measure in which you fall hard, in the measure in which you feel pain and struggle, is in the measure in which you grow. And that's just part of life. So people that like to be comfortable, that love life to be a certain way and patterns, you're never gonna really grow into anything else. You'll be forced to grow when you're put in an uncomfortable situation. Ideally, for our children, we want to make sure that they are going through the trials and tribulation while they're under our care, so that when they are out of the age group, they understand some things. So for me as a parent, when they were younger, it was important that they had food, that they were dressed appropriately. I was not concerned whether they had the latest gadgets, the latest clothing, but they were always dressed to a T. They were clean. I wanted to make sure that they went to church. I wanted to make sure that they understood work ethic, because that's what I do. And that I wanted them to be loving and good people. And so the society that we live in now, the dynamic somewhat has changed. And sadly, whatever your kids do affect other kids, whether you believe it or not. And so we need to sometimes think collectively, and sometimes we need to make sure that we are allowing our children to still be individuals and not fall under, try to put them in a category. In parenting adult kids, first of all, I'm not a perfect parent. Second, you have to be able to be honest and transparent. For me, when my kids were smaller, I would look at stuff on the media and say, oh, my child would never do that. Quick to judge. I have no idea. Now that I have adult children, now that I've talked to other people and I have friends that are going through the valley, and sometimes when you think you have it worse, some other people have it bad. You have parents that their kids are committing suicide, that have killed themselves. You have parents that have children that are addicted to drugs. You have parents that have children that have OD'd multiple times. You have parents with children in prison. You still are supposed to love your child regardless. And sometimes it's hard, because I'm one of 10, to sometimes my mom and my dad, I have siblings and they want to help certain siblings a little bit more because they feel they failed, or they have a certain type of love. And sometimes you can almost understand it at times. You really learn when you have adult kids to relate to what you see in the world, to not jump the gun as quick because you've seen your children fail in areas that you know other people are failing. And nobody's talking about it on social media. Social media wants to tell you the best of everything. And let me just tell you, God does not ride on everything well on that wave. God is glorified when we can share with each other our pain, our grief, our shame, our mistakes. How far did I go? That we can reach somebody for Christ. So sometimes when we shun somebody that has a child who's a drug addict, for example, if that drug addict, let me just tell y'all, addiction is something there is no getting over. We'll stop, when I read stuff, I sometimes cringe because we make rash statements because we haven't dealt with that demon. So for me, I'm not a drug addict. I've never used drugs. However, I have friends that have children that I love dearly that are in that. And when you look at it spiritually, they are so mighty. They can reach more people than I can, because in the spiritual realm, the addiction, the magnitude of the addiction is so great that if they become clean, you know how many people they can reach with their testimony that I can't. And so in the magnitude in which you parent and your kids get older and you see them do stuff that you never did, that you never thought about doing, and you start seeing stuff on the media, on the news, instead of judging harshly and quickly, you really do pray. Your heart goes to a different place. For me, I'm a grandmother, my heart just goes to a different place. My prayer comes from a different place. Because whether you're rich, white, black, legal or illegal, we all feel the same. Animals feel pain. They feel love. They feel happiness and joy. And so when you parent an adult child, you have to allow them the space to make their mistakes. You can guide them. You can be a fan, like a crazy person at the bleachers screaming, at the players when a game is full force and you think they should be doing something, you're rooting. You really are that fan, and you should be there unconditionally, regardless of the outcome, regardless of what's going on. And that's God love. And so I just want to encourage you this week to, pray for your children, allow them that space and that time, that respect, have boundaries. And don't overstep them. You wait for them to come to you. You pray. And so just this week, meditate on sometimes how we react to certain news, how we see things, and we judge harshly. And if you just put your child's face on some of the stuff that goes on, you would definitely, God will work in you to see things differently. Because in the end, we're all working to get to the same place. We're all here with a purpose, with a story, a unique story of redemption. And so if you are living a perfect life, you're no good to God. You're not. And so I grew up with the mindset that if you look Christian enough and you look holy enough, and everybody labels you the good girl, the good Christian girl, well, we all have a story to share. And so, I've made my big mistakes. And like I said, I'll get into some other topics, but I just kind of wanted to talk today about, just parenting adult children. The love doesn't change for your children. Your children, you still see them vulnerable. You still see them fail, and you hurt. You're happy with them when things are great, and that's, I think, the way every parent, just like God is rooting that we will always make the right decision. If we fail, He loves us the same. And so this week, just praying for more compassion, more love, more understanding, more grace, more mercy. And in the measure that you want something for your life, you should extend it to others. Meet me at 0 next week. I'll talk a little bit more about parenting adult children. And I will move on to other topics that you guys have asked me. If you have not watched my previous videos, I do suggest you start with the first one. I love you all. Have a mighty week. Stay hydrated and cool. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.